in this case, the December 16th meeting, and is it always 16th? Yes. Okay. So moved. Support. Okay, we have a motion and support. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Okay. Here I've got some of the financial reports to pass around. And I think there's at least one mileage sheet in your packet to review. If you got any questions or concerns, please raise them. Elected officials updates. I don't see a whole lot of elected officials, but if those that are here that would like to make a report are invited. Seeing none? People are counting up. Department heads. Okay. Seeing none, we'll go on to public time. Invite the public to come forward.
Thank you. Carol Wynn, Marathon Township. Just a little bit of an update. I see Brendan's not here today, my commissioner, but the Marathon Township had a meeting last night. They did have it virtual. Their offices are completely shut down. They have not opened their offices to the public right now. But during this meeting, they spoke, something on the agenda was to discuss having public hearings and special land use hearings virtually. And so the discussion went on, and they did thankfully vote to make sure that these public hearings and special land use hearings are not virtual, that they will be face-to-face, which they should be. There's no way that you can have a special land use when the public, there could be 50 people that want to speak, just like I don't know if anybody listened to the State Board of Education meeting the other day, a couple days ago. They had hundreds of people that had called in, were waiting on hold for hours to talk to the state board because their opinions were so passionate, one way and both ways. It was 80%. 80% of the calls to the state board were that they did not want mask mandates. They did not want the shot mandate. They did not want these clinics in their schools. 80% were against all of that. Thankfully, again, the state board voted their resolution to not do it. Again, it was a resolution, but if a board if you respect a board and they pass a resolution, there's more weight on that resolution. So I was thankful that they did that too. But anyway, back to the township. I'm just thankful that, personally, I don't think it needed to take a vote. These public hearings need to be face-to-face. It's important. It's important for the boards to see people. And anyway, I guess I just wanted to give an update. I'm sorry that Brendan's not here to hear it. Thank you.
Other members of the public that would like to comment? Okay, seeing none, I will see if our director of CMH would like to make any comments since he arrived after public participation, but after department heads. If you'd like to.
Sure.
You don't have to.
Take a real quick update.
Okay.
I know Commissioner Zender and Commissioner Schneider were able to come to the meeting we had on CCBHC. Our board will be discussing that and making a recommendation of whether to move forward with seeking out that grant opportunity. I'd like to bring to the commission some more information about that. Should I get on an agenda, department head update?
How long do you think it'll be?
10-15 minutes.
I think you could probably do it on a board regular, state as an agenda item.
Sure.
Should I get it as an agenda item or just department head updates?
No, I would think it was that long.
I think, yeah,
Okay.
better that way.
Okay.
All right. I think there's some exciting things for our community that could result from CCBHC. Just a quick comment. I know St. Clair took a really broad swipe at it. I think in Lapeer, we'd be a little more narrow in our focus and focus on some key gaps in services that existed in county. Thank you.
You used acronyms again. You want to?
Certified Community Behavioral Health Center.
Okay.
That's a federal designation that opens up the opportunity to provide more service and higher level of funding through incentive payments and grant funds.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, that should take care of public comments and comments from departments. Move on to new and old business. And we have before us some audit motions that are history.
Mr. Chairman, there's just some slightly different amounts and of them and dates. These are just ones that need to be read into the record. We already did the motions previously before the holiday break for authority, and so now we're going to read into the record. And so between items 1 and 2, the road commission and ours, there's 4 of them. And so under number 1, under the county audit motions, I will move to enter into the record the audit motion for the county for checks dated 12/21, 12/30,
12/17.
and 12/17.
There's a motion. Second. Commissioner Jarvis. Any further discussion? Okay, seeing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
And then with the same explanation, the road commission's audit motion, but the date is different than on your agenda. It's for the road commission's audit motion for checks dated 12/30/2021.
Okay, I just got called to order here. We needed a roll call on those.
On the audit motion, okay, so we're gonna back up a bit. Commissioner Schneider,
Yes.
Commissioner Zender,
Yes.
Commissioner Henny,
Yes.
and Commissioner Jarvis.
Yes.
Thank you.
Well, that would be so
Okay,
proud
now
of you.
it-
Thank you.
Thank you. Now back to your motion for the road.
Road commission audit motion for checks dated 12/30/2021. Support.
And again, roll call.
Yes, please. You made the motion. Commissioner Schneider,
Yes.
Commissioner Zender,
Yes.
Commissioner Henny,
Yes.
and Commissioner Jarvis.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, good. We're legal. We had a chance to check what our administration was doing. And the figures look normal. So even though we met, business was transacted and it looks very, very well done. Moving on then, we have a topic where Russ Adams, the executive director of our EMS, is here, and I'll let him introduce it.
Morning, Commissioners.
Russ.
Thank you. It was discovered late last year at the close of the year that our existing contract for county service could be construed as expired. There were contradictory clauses in it. Mr. Bishop brought it to legal counsel's attention. So at the close of last year, we drafted an extension agreement. That extension agreement was extended to the county. Your general counsel took a look at it this week. They have made recommendations to that. Our legal counsel is in favor of those, but I will need to have my board move on it. My board meeting is Tuesday with those. If you're familiar with it, what your general counsel requested was specifically the dates be updated because it was listed at the end of last year, and that the auto renewal clause be removed. And there's no problem at all with that. That just means that as the millage comes forth again, we will be discussing this service agreement in favor of that as we move forward. So the only 2 changes that your counsel suggested were updating the dates and removing the auto renewal. Our attorneys, our general counsel were fine with that. I will just need to have a motion by my board for those changes, and I will bring it back to you next week.
Okay, next.
Chairman,
next
I'll move the issue to next week's committee of the whole with authority to act.
Okay, is there any, I mean, I don't want to rush the circumstance,
Well,
but,
let me take a second. If there's
Sure.
a second, okay.
I'm so sorry. Okay. Yeah, no, I just wanted to make sure that it was clear. I couldn't bring an agreement without the authority of my board.
Right.
So I received that last time.
And if we're not ready to act at the next meeting, we can always postpone it to the
Okay.
following meeting.
Perfect, it's
But
merely an
since there's so
extension.
few changes, I would think we're ready to move.
It's merely an extension of the existing agreement. It's just updating the language to state that.
And,
Russ, what is your millage? When does the millage expire? Is that 2024?
It does. So it's a 5-year millage, it's inclusive of 2020, so it goes through 2024. We've had some extensive discussion on this. It gets confusing because there's an assessment year and a distribution year. So it assesses in 2024, but it doesn't distribute until 2025. So the actual levy expires in 2024, but there's receipts through 2025.
So we'll have authority to act on that next week if we so choose. And Quentin, you and I have discussed this before. Can you at least have in either our package, depending on the timing, or in the commissioner's boxes, the copy of the most recent millage that was passed, and then whatever that approval is from their board that they're gonna get on Tuesday, and then the actual contract with the comments from our.
We'll have a complete package for the board to review when we return the word back from Mr. Adams' board.
I'll forward that with the motion on Tuesday following the meeting.
Beautiful. We'll have a complete package by Thursday.
Great. Yeah, no, but I'm saying if we're able to put it together on Wednesday, there might be some commissioners that want to review it at home. If it gets sent over, and
100%.
just helps keep the issue moving.
Very good.
But since you're here, if there are other topics that you'd like to give out an update on, we do appreciate the monthly reports that we get from you.
So
I know I read them and.
I'm glad you're looking at those. We distribute a specific municipal report to all 22 municipalities within the county that identifies how many calls for medical service were received by central dispatch and how many calls we attended to and what we attended to with those. So I appreciate the fact that you're looking at the aggregate data that I send over in the board packet. Each municipality actually gets mailed a specific, and each municipality gets delineated exactly what those waived costs have accumulated to for them as well. So that's another item that's interesting to municipalities to understand. Just a small note about that is that those waived fees are associated with your residence, not the action of call. And what that means is if you were unlucky enough to be in a vehicle accident in the city of Lapeer, yet you were a Marathon Township resident, when that bill comes through, it's credited to Marathon Township as a waived cost. It isn't credited to Lapeer. The event took place in one place, but the resident, we review that for the entire county. So that's a little bit on that. I mentioned the last time I was before you commissioners that it looked like we were going to have a record call volume, which we did have. 7,646 runs. That far exceeds last year's total by a little over 600. In addition to that, it's interesting to point out that we've transported over 4,600 patients in the area of roughly 4,800, but 4,300 of those patients were transported to McLaren Lapeer. So we are by far the largest ambulance transporter to that system. We provide over 80% of their ambulance traffic to that building, far in excess of any of the other providers in the region. So those are just two of the statistical values. There will be a breakdown in the packet that you receive about the variety of calls that we received. It's interesting to point those out and understand the breadth of service that we provide, whether they're behavioral emergencies or medical emergencies. But in the latest board packet, there's a breakdown of those as well.
So the difference between that, I think you said 6,000 some calls that you responded to, and
And transports.
transport are people who where you went and you did not transport.
Exactly. So there's a number of reasons we might
I was
not do
gonna
that.
ask for that.
So it could be an instance where, we do what's called a treatment and no transport, which could be a simple assessment. Someone felt lightheaded and weak and rightfully so. Somebody called 911 in their honor, and we got there and had a good discussion, and the patient was conscious, alert, and able to make their decisions and said, I'm feeling better now, and so-and-so's gonna take me, and that's discussed amongst the team. It could be an unfortunate event where somebody has expired. And we have those as well, so that doesn't necessarily always result in a transport. But there's a number of different issues. Understand that a bill is associated with a patient that's transported or a patient that's treated. And so there's fees associated with that, as well as the waiving of that. We run roughly 70% of our calls for service result in a transport somewhere. And we have a listing actually in the board packet of all of the places that we transport patients to. So it may be U of M, it may be Crittenton, it may be Marlette Hospital. But we transport to more than just the local. But yes, approximately 70% of our calls for service result in the transport of the patient.
Other questions?
No other questions other than please make sure when you meet with your board, again, extend our appreciation, not only to the board, but through the board to the boots where the work gets done. We know, again, like we prayed this morning, they put themselves in harm's way all the time for this community. I saw someone that just wrote a letter in the paper again the other day, thanking, so
Thank you.
appreciate the service, but we recognize the very difficult time right now. And so thank you to all of the men and women that do that job.
I appreciate that. There are individual faces that make up those crews. It's not an aggregate total, and I will absolutely extend that. So thank you, commissioners.
Russ?
Yes, sir.
Just, how many bases does Lapeer County EMS have?
Currently, we have 8.
8?
We operate 8 bases, and that's directly a result of the millage. And one of the things, as you bring that up, that I like to point out, I may not have the exact numbers associated, but when a base is open, we have a base in Dryden. It isn't just Dryden. That was a new one that was open in relation to the millage. It isn't just the Dryden community that benefits from that. Because we go to a post system, when a truck goes out, that additional truck is available not only to the direct community, but to the system as a whole. So we've added 7,000 hours of service available to the community in EMS coverage with every base that opens. We've got 24/7, 2 people on that unit. So we do operate 8 bases every day. And those are for the system and specifically for the community that they're opened in.
So could you explain to us when you say that it benefits, the system? So for example, if you had a call and the ambulance that's at the Dryden base left that area, then you move vehicles around to cover that area partially?
That's exactly what it is. So an example using Dryden, we have an area that's called South Point. So that would be our status or our point system. And we would move the Metamora station over, it's along Dryden Road. It's actually at the Thornville Baptist right there, because it's centrally between both of those regions. We don't want to say that, well, the Dryden car's out, they don't have any coverage until the Dryden car's back. We said, no. We're gonna go halfway, and we're gonna kind of protect ourselves both ways, and we're gonna sit at ready then. They're gonna stage in the vehicle waiting. I do actually get calls wondering why we have a truck sitting up behind it's a Frontier Cellular building or Frontier something next to the Italian Villa on 24. Well, the reason for that is our Mayfield vehicle has gone out to a 10-go run, and our North Branch vehicle comes down halfway, or vice versa. If the North Branch vehicle goes out, the Mayfield vehicle goes up halfway. So we have a system in place that adjusts the vehicles each time somebody goes out. And as they come back in, they go through dispatch to identify, we're back in service, do you need us at South Point? Because at that point, maybe there's 3 vehicles out of the 8, and we've got all 5, we've got the 5 remaining at status. So we rotate them around in that regard. Does that answer your question, sir?
Yes, thank you very much.
One part that I always pay attention to in your report is the response times, which are down from many years ago, I remember.
They are.
Any comment you want to talk about the response times?
So response times are a very unique statistic. And the reason they're unique is years ago it was looked as a singular point. And we do talk about time, and we do talk about the rapid response. But what has changed is not all of our calls for service are life-threatening emergencies. So we were lucky enough, actually, when COVID came in, Central Dispatch agreed to tier our calls. In other words, they are prioritizing them as a priority 1, which is a life-threatening event. That's a priority 1 call. A priority 2 is a very serious event that without intervention could become a priority 1 call. And a priority 3 is a call that requires intervention, but there's not necessarily an emergent aspect to it. The reason that becomes important is a priority 3 event is not responded to lights and sirens. A priority 4 event is not responded to lights and sirens. 4, of course, is the loss of life, if it's a known confirmed loss of life. So when we look at those totals, those numbers, it's a blend of all of that information. So a priority 1 call, when you look at that total, it actually says adjusted response time. And the reason it's adjusted is we remove the known non-emergency calls, which are actually what's called a medical transfer. So that's somebody that needed dialysis care or something. None of those are emergencies. We should not be running lights and sirens to those events, putting our staff at risk, and worse than that, the general public. So yes, our times are down because we've increased the coverage. When we look at the actual time on the individual events that are known emergencies, it's down considerably. But if I don't provide the aggregate view, it would look as though I was cherry picking those details. And we don't ever want to do that. The topic has changed in the industry, and it's looked at very differently because of the risks at that emergency status. We want to make sure that we're using that lights and sirens response specifically for known or suspected life-threatening events. So it's a bigger answer than you expected, but it's a topic for, I talk too much.
Well, I think it's beneficial both for the board and for the public to understand that particular area, but all of your work.
Sure, I appreciate that.
Any further questions, sir? Thank you.
Commissioners, thank you. I look forward to being back next week.
Okay, we have motions. I have no other agenda topics under new and old business, but we do have motions from our standing committees and ARPA. So if you would like to go to those, first would be looking at motions from the committee of the whole meeting last week. Commissioner Schneider, if you would help us with this.
Certainly. So near the very back of your package, I have the motions in question, and the first one, we're talking about the committee of the whole from January 6th. The first one was a resolution that already had a roll call vote, so the second roll call will be necessary today, but I will move motion number 1.
Okay, was a roll call.
It was a roll call at committee of the whole. Doreen had instructed me to do another roll call at the full board. I will leave that up to you guys, how you want to proceed.
Okay, maybe we don't have recorded who voted how, so.
I do have that, but that's up
Okay.
I'll leave that in the
It
hands of the
won't
board.
hurt to have a roll call. So
No need to,
if
but
there's no
we
objection,
don't, hey, we don't want to upset Doreen.
I'm just
So-
being,
whatever.
No, we don't.
So Doreen, if you're listening, whatever you say.
that's what I was told,
Okay,
because I asked that specific question.
please proceed.
Okay,
Do you have
we need a
support?
motion first. Who was the motion made by?
I was.
I'm sorry, okay.
Supported.
Thank you. So Commissioner Schneider,
Yes?
Commissioner Jarvis,
Yes.
Commissioner Henning,
Yes?
and Commissioner Zunder.
Yes.
The same
Thank you.
result that you got before,
Yes, it's the exact same result.
except minus one person.
Page 2 of 2, there's 2 more motions, and I will move both motions 2 and 3. Support.
Commissioner Jarvis was the second. Any further discussion on those 2 motions from the committee call? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. They're passed. Going on to personnel, I'm assuming Commissioner Miller, who chaired that meeting, if Commissioner Schneider wouldn't mind, I'll let him introduce those, and we'll go over those in detail.
No problem. Personnel committee meeting from January 6th, there's 4 motions there. All 4 of them fall under our currently budgeted programs for the current budget year, and so there's no additional cost to the county general fund on any of these 4. Motion 1 dealing with community mental health need for a full-time master level clinician position. Motion 2, community mental health also to fill a master level clinician supervisor position. Motion number 3 was the senior program worker home delivered meals program, that position. And then the 4th one is also senior programs worker home delivered meals position. And
Commissioner
I
Schneider,
can delve into those more deeply if I need to on any of them. but
I
that's-
would
that's
maybe
the-
give the detailed wording for motion 4, because that's a little bit different than the other 3.
Okay, so motion number 4 was to recommend the full board to authorize the health department to add and fill 1 non-regular part-time senior program worker home delivered meal position due to the increased number of home delivered meal recipients and the program demands. And any subsequent vacancy should an internal transfer occur, and no additional cost to the general fund. So that, the language on the if there's a vacancy, that's a standard. But what Dial, I think, is referring to is that we're adding on to another position there. It's not replacing where somebody's outgoing, it's just because of the demand right now on that, and to make sure that we keep that that program that the board has identified as very vital to senior services, the home delivered meals in particular, but also the senior program worker.
We strive not to have a waiting list, or at least to keep working that waiting list down when there are seniors wanting those services. That's what the health department is requesting here to work.
So with those explanations, I'll move motions 1 to 4.
Support. We have a motion and support. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. All right. On then to ARPA. Our work group there did meet. I should note that we don't have a special meeting this week, but we will be having a brief training session on the new final regs. So hopefully with the final regulations, if anybody wants to see those, we can get you an address for them. Another 44 pages of detailed reading, guaranteed to help you sleep at night. Commissioner Center.
So we had 1 ARPA motion, motion by Henning, supported by Schneider, to recommend to full board pursuant to the recommendation of ARP committee to authorize expenditure of up to $5,000 for broadband feasibility research in order to provide future internet to all homes in Lapeer County will be paid from Fund 281.
There's a motion.
Yes.
I'll support, and just a little explanation on that too, and then if Quentin can certainly go into it more detail, but there is a model that the county wants to explore on broadband delivery. We can anticipate, this is a broad need across this state. There's a lot of rural counties like Lapeer. And learning from what's happened in the past, like I said, I've talked before about going back to the Obama administration when they had their grants, and it was just the private sector that ultimately had to deliver the services, even though you have the money come out of Washington. A, there's not enough service providers, or B, when they start prioritizing, at the end of the day, they're still doing their formulas on how many customers per square mile, and even when something's intended to be for the rural area ends up not getting the services. If there's another rural area that's got maybe a little bit more of a suburban, more customers per square mile, so to speak. And we can anticipate seeing the same type of thing happen again. And there is the opportunity to explore a model whereby the county would be a lot more involved in the actual service delivery and to actually start to look at broadband as a utility, and treating it like that in a separate enterprise fund. So rather than just reinventing that wheel, there are actually one or two other counties out there that have gone down this path. And it's very worthwhile education to see if we can go ahead and spend a little money to get one of those experts that's one or two steps down that path ahead of us to come and share with us that same path, and obstacles that they've incurred and successes that they've had. And also there's probably going to need to be, because this is, again, is thinking outside the box, there's going to need to probably be some coming out to Lansing as well to meet with legislators as the process starts to unfold and develop. And so it's wise to give the administrator a little seed budget to be able to have money accessible to be able to spend for those expenditures as we move through this process over the next year. So that's the history on the request.
I think that's a good explanation. This is not feasibility study in the big sense. It's really gaining information from others so that when we have the feasibility study, it makes more sense and has more relevance to what we're looking at. Okay.
And I give a ton of credit to our administrator controller for, we just had our economic development with the county too, and he also chairs that as well. So he's getting intimately involved in this whole process, and have a great deal of confidence that we got the right person exploring. So thank you for bringing this forward.
I think it's fair to say, as I've talked about this with townships, boards, and other people, it's fair to say that broadband is one of the things that's high on the public's list and other officials' list for action. I know I've reminded them that they can use their money for match, so this is potentially one area if they want to go into match for work in their township, they can do that. Okay, any further discussion? I think we have a second, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. Okay, that passes. Fiscal planning and budgeting, county administrator may have some comments, if you'd like to.
Could I just share a couple comments, just a few things that we've been working on, I'd like to update everyone on. We have narrowed it down for a brand new website to two providers that we will be asking for some very specific features for and see if they can deliver on those services. Of those, I anticipate implementation happen in the first quarter of this year, so we will see action. We will see changes. The one thing I would want to make clear is whoever we go with for this, the requirement will be to meet with each and every department head. And then from there is to gain specific knowledge about what can be brought online digitally with the focus of being more efficient and forward facing to the public. Meaning if we can do this digitally, let's do this digitally. Let's save time and energy. And so that'll be the main focus for their website. Second thing is the finance team, along with Doreen, we have met with 2 of the 3 wage consultants firms. They have a comprehensive wage study, and we are going through the nitty gritty details to right to the granular level of not only how is it presented, but in which format, and is it transferable digitally? We are diving really deep into finding the right firm to conduct this wage study that's 25 years since our last one. I will say this, that no matter the outcome and where we stand, I think it's important that we keep in mind competitiveness to attract, retain our employees is monumentally important. It is a fierce marketplace for talented people. And we have the opportunity to become competitive, and we need to be, and I believe we need to stay competitive in that marketplace, whether it's community mental health, whether it's law enforcement, whether it's operations, whether it's finance. It's hard to find good people, and it's hard to keep good people when everybody's always reaching in to add a little more. So we have an opportunity, and I just think that we will take the necessary time to drill down to the last detail of it. So direct plan and its resolution currently right now, a thumbs up to the city of Lapeer. They have went back. They themselves had a park master plan being built with Rowe. They were going to board. They were going to pass it, and they actually stopped what they were doing to make sure that their language and our language coincided. And it's important because when we go to task to fill out for grants, we'll be speaking the same language. And so I applaud the city of Lapeer for wanting to contribute at that level and taking the extra time to participate. I think that's a very strong signal that there's collaboration. Okay. This is specifically, what I'm going to mention here is specifically for public safety in any township or municipality that has public safety officials. House Bill 5521 is a bill that is going through, I'm losing track of my days. I think today's the 13th. Yeah, today's the 13th. Yesterday it was spoken in the House. This is a bill that reimburses first responders, specifically first responders that have been taking time off because of COVID, had to quarantine, had to use personal time, lost wages, any of those things that are reimbursable. House Bill 5521 allows for that reimbursement that we would apply for. This is positive. If you would ask Under Sheriff Howe or Sheriff McKenna, or if you would ask anybody in the public safety space, has anybody had scheduling conflicts due to COVID, right? Every hand's going up, right? This doesn't take away the scheduling conflict. What it does is it brings money more back in because somebody took a hit either through wages or the department themselves suffered because they were shuffling around people paying OT and all kinds of things. So if you haven't seen it and you haven't heard about it, House Bill 5521 is a very, very important legislation that'll provide additional funding. Want to make a mention that we are examining, I'll call it auditing. It is what it is. I'm auditing our software throughout the county, what we use in departments, where we're using it, what function do they take, and how can we streamline some of our softwares, or find softwares that really benefit, in ways we haven't considered before. The old adage was, well, you want to have one central software for all things because then you got all these different vendors, right? Well, I kind of look at it as just good time management. You might have more, but you just gotta stay on top of more, right? The important piece with software, for those not familiar with it, is it's all about interfacing. Your softwares just have to talk to each other. And if they don't talk to each other, it causes problems. And when it causes more problems, I get phone calls. So I'm going to avoid all that problem by finding softwares that talk with each other. But I think it's the opportunity, because we're talking about website, because we're talking about modernizing, how we conduct government. Software is one of those components. Okay, so we'll be examining that. And then the last shout out, I want to publicly say, what's happening in public safety in our law enforcement. Had an opportunity to speak with Sheriff McKenna under Sheriff Howe earlier in the week. Covered a lot of topics, and everybody thinks, law enforcement, and then the jail operations. Many people might not know, road patrol and deputies and corrections are two totally separate things. Our Marine Division, our corrections, and our road, three totally separate things. This is a complete organization within a larger organization with a lot of moving parts and complexities. And we talk about quarantining and isolation. We talk about the face-to-face contact with the public. Just diving into their world for a brief second to hear what, hey, what about this? What about that? And then on top of that, the scheduling issues that they're having and trying to be competitive in their marketplace. Just got to hand it to them that as far as Lapeer County goes and their public safety, these guys are top notch. They've been providing excellent service, and the way that they conduct themselves professionally is top of the line. So I know you get kudos, but I'm just going to give you a little more. Right on. It'll be reflected in the wage study. That's all my updates. I had a list growing, so I thought I'd just take the opportunity to, get it all out there for everybody.
Thank you. We thank you for all of the leadership you're providing and pushing us along and to deal with some of these topics that have been sort of sitting there for a while. So thank you for that.
No problem. Total team sport here. Yep.
Okay, we have now audit motions again. Back to 2022 hours.
Yeah, now this one, we're not reading the record, this one actually taking action on. So I will move the road commission's audit motion, check dated 1/13 of 22, and I will move the county's audit motion, check dated 1/14 of 22, with the controller's signature.
Support.
Motion and support. Any discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? No.
Roll call.
Oh, you're right. Thank you.
I need to do two separate ones for each one, correct?
No.
Two separate roll calls or one roll call?
Just one.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. Thank you.
Mhm.
Commissioner Schneider,
Yes.
Commissioner Zunder,
Yes.
Commissioner Jarvis,
Yes.
and Commissioner Henny.
Yes. Okay, now we're back on the agenda to public time. Any members of the public that would like to make a comment, we invite to come forward. Okay, see none. Moving on to commissioners' reports then. Commissioner Zunder.
Had a conversation with the DNR trail specialist for the Pollyanne Trail. We did get a grant approval for culvert out north of, well, actually south of Bowers Road. Culvert's washed out there, has been for several years. We did get a grant to get that fixed. So that'll be coming in front of this board shortly to approve that, but with very, very much needed repair. Very, very dangerous out there. So, that's all I can.
Commissioner Snyder.
The other thing I want to mention was we have I think a 1 o'clock Zoom today that maybe we might want to fill in just a little bit more detail, fill in the blanks as far as it would be advisable for all of our commission to viewed that information?
Sure. So as part of the broadband feasibility, we have the companies who represent all the feasibility, all the pre-engineering. We went with somebody called Merit. Merit is who we actually buy internet from for our 911 station, our sheriff's department. That's who we receive it from. So they're subject matter experts in that space. They are coming together to walk us through step by step what we're about to get ourselves into, because it's going to be a marathon of activity, and each step has a very specific sequence of actions that has to take place. When you apply for a feasibility study, what type of variances you need to get, all the permitting that you need, all the resolutions that you need. So it can get real in depth, and they lay out through what they call a pathfinder program. And it's somebody who comes alongside of us that walks us through step by step by step. So that's the introductory kickoff meeting today, to discuss what Pathfinder is, how we go about engaging it, and then how we utilize somebody like a Merit to perform those services for us.
So I believe everybody should have gotten an email with a link for that Zoom, and if you haven't, contact the administration office for that information. That's all I have.
Commissioner Jarvis.
I'll let you report on the short,
Okay.
okay?
I didn't have that on my list. I thought you would.
And for my notes.
Okay, any other group?
No, that's it.
Okay, the Historic Courthouse Committee did meet yesterday. We have a rough financial report. It looks as if we made from the gala in December, it looks like we've made over $3,000 of profit, which for returning to that after several years of not holding it, I think is a pretty good return. Also, given the times with COVID, I think that didn't help us any either. So we're pretty happy with what we were able to achieve with that on the basis of the committee report. We do have some other events that the committee's working to plan, looking, I think the next series would be in April with the play that is put on in the courthouse. It's also a fundraiser for us. And
That's the beginning of May, the beginning of May.
the beginning of May, okay, you're right. You're right, beginning of May, and then also May was the potential for ladies' night out, using our facility as a source. I think the committee will be meeting monthly at this point, so we'll try to keep you updated as we go along. One of the things that I thought was interesting, very healthy, is that the chairman has been working with several people to begin to look at the actual physical changes that are needed in the courthouse to make it more historically authentic. There's going to be the chairman and several other people touring and trying to identify in detail what those changes might look like, and then be building budgets towards making those changes. Gives us a little more focus for fundraising, for example. Sound good?
Sounds good.
Okay. Couple things I thought I'd comment. Mr. Bishop talked about our staff study, wages and jobs, really, how jobs are structured, what fair wages would be. Our challenge will be, of course, when we implement that, having the money available in our general fund budget to cover those, what we expect will be increases, because we know we're paying less than many comparable counties. So even though now we feel a little more flush with money from ARP and other federal government largesse, when that comes about, and we have to look at long-term funding, the fact that we in the county rank 5th or 6th statewide for a millage average, and I mean that is 5th or 6th lowest millage rate in the state. We're going to have some challenges to do that on a permanent basis. Short term, with all of that extra money coming from the federal government, it looks easy, but long-term won't be so easy. I did also want to indicate from various township and other meetings where I've given reports, the need for website improvement has definitely been a top topic that people support. There's agreement with those people who felt we needed in administration and elsewhere that we needed an improvement. They almost uniformly agree with that. So good that we're working on it. Then finally, we do have a policies and procedures subcommittee meeting to follow this. And of course, 1 p.m. training. Any further things that we've missed? Okay, we have no closed session, so I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Support. All those in favor? Aye. We're adjourned.